What if everything you've been told about human history is wrong? What if our story doesn't begin 200,000 years ago in Africa, but stretches back into an impossibly deep past, a past that science is only just beginning to uncover? We're taught a neat, linear story of evolution, but strange and baffling discoveries from around the world are starting to unravel that narrative piece by piece. Are you ready to question everything? Let's start in Morocco at a site called Jebel Irhoud. Here, archaeologists unearthed skulls that look remarkably like ours. They have modern-looking faces, but their brain cases are elongated, more archaic, the shocking part. These remains were dated to 315,000 years ago. That's over 100,000 years older than the accepted age of Homo sapiens. It suggests our species didn't just pop up in one spot, but was evolving all across the vast African continent. But could our origins be even more ancient and not even in Africa? Now let's journey to Greece, to a place called Apodema Cave. In 2019, a bombshell announcement was made. Scientists had re-examined a fragmented skull discovered decades earlier. Their conclusion? The skull, known as Apodema II, was a Neanderthal. No surprise there, but another, more complete skull from the same site, Apodema I, told a different story. It was Homo sapiens, and it was dated to 210,000 years ago. This discovery is staggering. It places modern humans in Europe more than 150,000 years earlier than previously thought, at a time when we believed only Neanderthals roamed the continent. What were our ancestors doing there so early and so far from our supposed African cradle? How did they get there? And what happened to them? Did they simply die out, a failed first attempt to leave Africa? Or is there more to this story? The mysteries only deepen when we look at our own DNA. Hidden within our genetic code are ghosts of ancient encounters. Scientists have found evidence that our ancestors interbred with several other archaic human groups, like Neanderthals and Denisovans. But there's another ghost, a super-archaic lineage that split from our own over 1 million years ago. We don't have fossils of these. People, we don't have a name for them. All we have is their genetic echo, a whisper in our blood. Who were they? Where did they live? And what does their existence say about the true complexity of our family tree? The clean branches of our evolutionary tree are starting to look more like a tangled, interconnected web. The timeline gets even stranger. In 2017, researchers in California analyzed the 13,000-year-old bones of a mastodon. The bones weren't just old. They showed clear signs of being deliberately broken with stone tools. This implies that some kind of human was in North America 100,000 years before we thought anyone crossed the Bering Strait. This find is so controversial that many scientists refuse to accept it. If it's true, who were these phantom toolmakers? Were they Homo sapiens who undertook an epic, unknown migration? Or were they another species entirely, a branch of humanity that reached the Americas and vanished without a trace? The evidence is there, etched in bone, challenging the very foundation of when and how the New World was populated. Now let's consider the tools themselves. For a long time, the oldest known stone tools, the Oldowan style, were dated to around 2.6 million years ago. They were thought to be the invention of the genus Homo. But then, at a site in Kenya called Lomekwi, three researchers found something that shattered that idea. They unearthed crude, heavy stone tools dated to 3.3 million years ago. That's 700,000 years older than any known member of our genus. Who made them? The prime suspect is a more primitive hominin like Australopithecus, the family of the famous fossil Lucy. Could it be that the spark of technology, the very act of shaping stone to our will, wasn't a human invention at all? This pushes the dawn of ingenuity back into a time we considered far more primitive. What does it mean if the ability to create and use tools is not unique to us? Let's go back even further. In Crete, fossilized footprints were found embedded in ancient rock layers. These footprints show a creature that walked upright, with a big toe in line with the other toes, a distinctly human-like trait. The geological dating of these tracks is astonishing, 5.7 million years old. At that time, our ancestors were thought to be ape-like creatures still confined to Africa. So who was walking on the shores of Crete so long ago? This finding is so radical it suggests a completely different narrative for human evolution, one that might not even be centered in Africa. Could our bipedal journey have begun in Europe? The footprints are silent witnesses, posing a question that shakes our origins to the core. And what about our minds? When did we start thinking abstractly, symbolically? The mainstream view is that this behavioral modernity emerged around 50,000 years ago, but discoveries are pushing that date back and back and back. At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, archaeologists found evidence of pigment use, specifically red ochre dating to 164,000 years ago. Why were our ancestors grinding up this mineral? Were they decorating their bodies? Performing rituals? Whatever the reason, it was symbolic. It was art. It was a sign of a modern mind at work over 100,000 years earlier than expected, and it wasn't just us. In Spain, scientists found perforated seashells covered in pigment inside a cave occupied by Neanderthals. These were dated to 115,000 years ago. This wasn't just idle doodling. These were necklaces, personal ornaments. For decades, Neanderthals were painted as brutish, unintelligent cousins. But this suggests they had a sense of self, an appreciation for beauty, a capacity for symbolic thought that rivaled our own. They were not the dim-witted cavemen of popular imagination. They were our equals in more ways than we ever thought possible. So why did we survive and they didn't? Was it just bad luck? Or is there another piece of the puzzle we're missing? Each of these discoveries, from the 315,000-year-old skulls in Morocco to the 5.7 million-year-old footprints in Crete, is a tear in the fabric of our accepted history. They suggest that the story of humanity is not a simple, straightforward line, but a sprawling, globe-spanning epic with forgotten chapters and mysterious characters. We find modern-looking humans in Europe tens of thousands of years too early. We find phantom toolmakers in America. We find art and symbolism where there should be none. We find the ghosts of unknown ancestors in our own DNA. The official timeline says Homo sapiens appeared around 200,000 years ago and left Africa about 70,000 years ago to conquer the world. But the evidence paints a far more complex and ancient picture. It seems our ancestors and other human species were exploring, migrating, and innovating far earlier and more widely than we ever imagined. Perhaps there were multiple out-of-Africa migrations, some that succeeded and some that failed. Perhaps humanity's birthplace isn't a single point on the map, but an entire world. The Earth holds its secrets tightly. What other incredible discoveries lie buried, waiting to be unearthed? How much of our own story do we truly not know? We are a species with amnesia, piecing together a past that is far deeper, stranger, and more mysterious than we ever dared to believe. The next fossil, the next artifact, could change everything once again. The only thing we know for sure is that the story of us is still being written. Thanks for watching.